All right, John, why don't you say hi, introduce yourself really quick before we jump right in?
Well, hello everyone. I'm John Lamont. I own PriceMyAC.com, and I believe I am the only rocket scientist who owns an air conditioning company. I've done a lot of stuff in my life with military, space, and I decided to turn that into an air conditioning company and learn from that. So it was a good experience. I really enjoy it.
Oh, that's really fantastic. Yeah, I thought that was very interesting. Now, John, just really quick, I just want to make sure your camera's on. I can see you fine, but right now it looks like we're only seeing your screensaver. So not sure what's going on, so we don't get, the rest of the world isn't getting to see your lovely face. Okay, well, Jody is saying that she can see John, so that's more important. As long as you all can see him, I'm happy. That's why we have so many people on. All right. Well, I thought that was really cool that you worked on air. You have is it mechanical engineering?
Yes. Yes,
Okay.
I have 2 mechanical engineering degrees, and my actual graduate thesis was on vibration and noise analysis. So
Yeah, a lot of words. The man is very brilliant. That's all I heard, really, when he spoke those words. But what was very cool is that before you got your AC business, is you actually worked on the air in airplanes, right?
that is correct.
Right.
In aircraft, it's called environmental controls. So the air you breathe on an airplane comes from the engine, from the outside. It's cleaned and conditioned, and then it's pumped throughout the airplane. So if you think about what I used to do for environmental controls for airplanes, if it wasn't done properly, people could die, versus air conditioning for your home, if it's not done properly, people become uncomfortable. So there's a little difference, but the thought process that I learned and had as being an aerospace person did not stop when it comes to someone's home. So I'm very big in making sure that the quality of the system, how the system performs, all of the things that are inherent to me from my engineering days translate to what I do for customers in the residential market.
Which is huge. And that was part of the excitement of wanting to chat with you, because this is you definitely have a heart and care for people to give them and provide them with great service. And so we're going to jump into that. And one of the things, like I said, I love to learn. I'm a nerd. And so one of the things I'm always thinking is, as a consumer, what should I be looking for if I'm looking for an AC company?
Well, there's a lot of them out there. And as we go through this discussion today, I kind of want to be perceived as someone who's slowly pulling back the curtain to allow the consumers that are watching to learn a little bit about the air conditioning business and how it's conducted. First and foremost, the biggest thing you should look for is honesty in a contractor. And by honesty, it's not, are they telling the truth? It's, are they giving you the information in order for you to make a good decision? And that's why we have a transparency program, which I'll talk about a little bit later. But as a consumer, you have to understand that when a company says something or they put out a marketing brochure, that language doesn't translate into contractual obligation. So they can say anything, they can show you pretty pictures, but at the end of the day, it's not anything contractually obligated that they perform. So that's why I say watch what they say or watch what they do versus what they say, because that's a big difference in this business. Our transparency model, if you need an air conditioner, we show you what we pay for the equipment, what we pay for labor, what we pay for materials, and give you a detailed list of all those materials. We show you our company overhead, which are indirect expenses that are required to operate the company. We show you our profit. We show you the sales tax. We show you extended labor costs, warranty costs. So the consumer gets to see everything. And that's our trust through transparency model, because anybody can buy based on a price. We would prefer a customer to buy based on having total visibility into everything that they're buying. I mean, you're buying a system. And that brings me to a point, is when people buy an air conditioner system, they need to understand it's not just the system. There's three key parts. There's your registers, which throw the air into the room. There's your ductwork, which carries the air from the system to the registers. And then there's the system. So any one of those three things, if you don't address it holistically when replacing a system, any one of those things can cause a brand new system to not perform to the expectation. So that's why you have to have what I call the trust through transparency model. Hey, we're fixing these registers, we're fixing this ductwork, we're fixing X, Y, Z, and you detail all those costs versus, we're just putting in a new system for $8,500. It's a big difference.
It is. I mean, earlier before we jumped on, we were talking about how you're currently putting in tile or wanting to put in tile, new flooring in your home, and you were talking about you as you're working with vendors, the ones that you wanted to move forward with, because they weren't just telling you, oh yeah, we can do that, versus no, you wanted to do that, here are all the parts it takes to get to that, and the importance of understanding that as a consumer, so you can now make that informed decision, and you're offering that to your potential consumers and clients as well, and educating them. Like, now I know there's 3 systems. There's the registers, there's the ductwork, and there's the actual system. I didn't know that before, that I needed to pay attention to.
All of them are very critical. Yep.
Yeah.
We had a guy. We were the 4th person to show up for a quote just recently, and we showed him all of this detail, and he was just floored. He said, "Wow, no one does this. Why are you doing this?" And the answer is quite simple: that we don't want to be perceived as someone who's trying to cheat a customer by giving them a price. We want them to make the decision, be it with us or someone else, based on the right information. And that's critical.
It is. Now, I just wanted to say hello, welcome Jody again, and Jerice, I saw you pop in. If you have any questions, please go ahead and put them in the Ask a Question section there, and we'll be looking at that later in our time. If you missed it, this is John Lamont from PriceMyAC.com. Very excited to have him, and we're talking about just the overall HVAC world. And we just talked about kind of generally what should you be looking for in a company. And really for John, the biggest thing you were saying is honesty and trust, but honesty and not just what they say, but what they do and how those two merge up. And then we were kind of starting to go into the next question. It was, what can consumers do to prevent costly repairs, especially now that we know that there's 3 main parts of our whole HVAC system? So like, what should we be looking at and considering to make sure that we don't have costly repairs?
Well, let me kind of step back a little bit on that. All of us have teeth, right? And how do you prevent cavities? You brush and floss, right? Mm-hmm. So it's not that brushing and flossing has anything to do with air conditioning, but it's the preventative technique that you have that has to do with air conditioning. All air conditioners need to be serviced annually as required by a manufacturer. We recommend twice a year. We have a maintenance plan that takes care of that. So it's important that consumers can do a couple of things, and I brought a little show and tell, right? This is the filter that I use in my home. It's just a standard filter. It's like a 3-pack is like $6 at Lowe's or Home Depot, right? And what we do is I just use Pledge, and I just spray the filter before I put it in. I change them every 30 days. So what happens is, I now take a low-cost filter, spray it with Pledge, and it takes this filter and it collects more particulates and dirt and dust out of the air. Change them every 30 days. That's the easiest thing a consumer can do. The second thing is, and this just happened yesterday, is if your system stops working, turn it off. Because what happens is if you keep a system running that isn't working properly, you get a cascade effect of failures. Well, this was the part that was bad, but because you continue to run it, it caused this part to go bad and it caused this part to go bad. So that cascading of failures ends up driving up the cost of repairs when a customer needs a repair. So if it's not working, turn it off. It's just sitting there and leaving it on and turning it down. Hope, I hope it's going to work. I hope it's going to work. It's all you're doing is hoping that you don't cause more damage. That's key. The third thing a customer can do is we have several maintenance plans. Our Platinum plan, and we're the only one in the Valley and in the nation that does this, that we have clean and check. So we show up, we clean your unit, we check your unit, and any parts that you need are included. You don't have to pay for the parts. So it's not, surprise, here's a $900 bill. It's, we show you what needs to be done and we take care of it. It's included in the price. Everybody else in this market, and I always find this funny because I have my competitors come and service my unit and I watch what they do. They don't do anything, but they tell me all of these things that I need done. And if you think about what I started with the teeth thing, right? So if you go to a dentist, the hygienist cleans your teeth, they floss you, they get everything polished, your teeth are looking perfect. And then the dentist comes in and he says, yep, you're good. Oh, no, got a cavity right here, we're gonna fix this, right? Well, imagine if the dentist looked at your teeth before they were cleaned and checked. How can you tell a consumer that they need all of these things when the machine hasn't been cleaned? So that's, again, pulling back the curtain on how this industry operates. It's very disconcerting to me as a consumer, and it should be very worrisome to other consumers that, am I being told the truth? Because what you're saying doesn't make sense. The other thing is,
well, and I think a lot of people just don't realize that, right? Because we really don't know, and so that's where we're putting our trust in you. Like, it's like, that doesn't make sense, but to be honest, I don't know, and I don't have someone that's told me like that feeling of that doesn't make sense is actually a correct feeling, right? Until now. So it's nice. I get that. So it's nice to know that's like, no, that's right. It doesn't make sense. Like, you haven't gone through and looked at this and actually done a deep dive. You haven't cleaned it. I love the analogy of a dentist, because even with preventative care, after they do all that, they tell you now to keep this up, do your flossing, do these certain things. And here I just learned something new that I can apply right now, which is the whole pledge thing. Didn't even know that was a useful thing, how that helped or anything, which is fantastic.
Yeah, see, there's a lot of companies out there that are using marketing hype to have you buy really good filters. And those really good filters, they do a great job for about the first week. And then the filter, you might as well put a piece of wood over your return, because it becomes so restricted that you can't get any airflow into the system. So this method of using a cheaper filter, it pays for itself long term, because you're going to get better cooling, lower utility bills, and the nice thing is every once in a while your house will smell like pledge. So
awesome. Well, thank you for that. Again, I just saw Lori jump in, so welcome, Lori. We are talking with John Lamont at pricemyac.com. I've already learned a lot. It's only 15 minutes in. Now, I think we already answered this question, but how often do systems fail or need replacements? I heard you say that we should get yearly maintenance checks. Did not know that, by the way. I don't think my AC I've ever had it checked. And hello, Sharon. And Sharon has a question. Sharon, just so you know, if you wouldn't mind using the Ask a Question section in the middle bottom of your screen, I want to make sure we don't miss any questions. But if you could just put that question you just put into chat there, I would love that. That way when we get to our question and answer session from the audience, we don't miss it later on. But as we're saying, so yearly maintenance checks for your systems, you actually recommend twice a year. And then we talked about pledge, but systems, how often do they fail or potentially need replacement? Is there an average?
The national average, it's not average, it's national mean is 12 years. So 50% of the air conditioners in the nation fail before 12 years, 50% fail after 12 years. Now, let me put this in perspective. We have customers who move here from Chicago, and their system will die. It'd be a 12-year-old system, it dies, right? And they go, well, my unit in Chicago lasted 30 years. Well, we have over 2,200 hours of cooling operation in Arizona every year. Chicago has 300. So 300 versus 2,000 a year, big difference. So when you think about failure, there's 7 basic areas where a system can fail. There's your coils, you can have a leak. There's your capacitors, which are used to help start the motors and the compressor. The motors, which typically fail because the capacitor failed. You have relays, you have contactors, and a contactor is simply when your thermostat calls for the unit to come on, it's a switch, shuts, and those fail. You have coil leaks or wire rub leaks on the outdoor coil, and just the wires can go bad and burn. So those 7 basic areas end up manifesting themselves into over 5,000 combinations of the repair. It's 7 factorial, so that's the engineering figuring things out. And what's interesting is that of the thousands and thousands of units that we've serviced, 97%, which is a big chunk, all start with an electrical issue. All of them.
Wow.
So, and that's why our preventative maintenance plan, our platinum plan that I talked about just a few minutes ago, I don't focus on refrigerant charge or cleaning the coils first. We look at all of these little electrical things because that's what's going to dictate the longevity of a system. As something starts to go bad, for instance, a capacitor, right? As a capacitor goes bad, the motor that it's attached to runs hotter. So as the motor runs hotter, the bearings tend to weep out oil, and it starts, and so it's designed to run like that. And
it's just slowly, this whole progressive.
Yeah, it just slowly goes down. That's right. And next thing you know, it's like, well, the motor's bad. Well, then when the motor goes bad, it can cause the compressor to go bad. I mean, it's a cascade of effects. And that's why, when I said earlier, if it's not working, shut it off. So the average life is 12 years, but what's more important, a customer needs to understand that it's not necessarily the equipment brand, it's the install. So how important, if it's installed properly and then serviced properly, you should have 15, 20, 25 years of life of a unit. I mean, without hesitation.
Wow. Okay. Well, I think Sharon had asked a really great question about how do you turn off your system when you need to? Like, where's the off switch?
Okay. And I know this sounds funny, but your thermostat has a system switch. So usually it's a cool, off, or heat in air. That's almost every thermostat has that. So you move the system to off or turn the temperature up. That's the easiest way to get it to shut off. A lot of people don't realize their thermostat has batteries. So worst case, if you can't get the system to shut off, let's say something's wrong with the thermostat, you can actually pull the thermostat off the wall. It clips into, there's a base and then there's the front, so it clips into it. So worst case, if nothing shuts off, then you can just simply pull the thermostat off the wall. There are times when a contactor could be welded shut, so the compressor, which is the outside section, could stay running. In that instance, you need to go and turn the main breaker off for the air conditioning. That way it won't run.
And the main breaker generally
it's in your breaker panel. You have a panel.
Got it. Oh, the big box. Okay.
But yeah, there's a big electrical box. Yeah.
Yep. See, I'm not that afraid to look silly. Like, breaker, what are those words you're saying? Okay, great. That's awesome. Thank you so much for for answering that question. And I'm going to actually go right into it's Arizona. As you just gave the comparison between Chicago, 300 hours a year versus Arizona, 2,200 hours a year. It is very important for us here in the Valley. So what do we need to know when our air conditioning goes out in the summer? What should we be doing? Obviously, number one, turn it off and get help. But then what?
Well, turn it off. But depending on who's in the house, most homes have 2 air conditioners, which is nice. So turn the one off, turn the other one down. But if you have a single air conditioner and you have elderly parents, pets, or kids in the home, find somewhere that you can go. I mean, call a neighbor, call a friend, and don't forget to take your furry little critters, because they can't handle these extreme temperatures like we can't, they can't, and yet they're wearing a fur coat. That's the first thing that they should do. But the second thing is they need to call us, and because if you're part of our plan, we show up the same day. I mean, within an hour, and we'll take care of your unit. We'll give you an assessment, diagnosis. We also have, let's say we show up and it's, you need a new system, right? Well, we have portable air conditioners that we offer to our customers when they buy a new system from us. Hey, I don't want to be out of my home. I don't want to be completely disrupted. So we'll bring those units into the home and let them run and help cool the home. It won't take it down to 65, but it will certainly make the home comfortable, and they can stay in the home while we're getting ready to replace the system.
Wow, that's awesome to hear. I mean, I know that a lot of people like cooler air. I personally don't, so I'm already comfortable around 82 degrees in my home. That's where it pretty much stays. I know.
82.
It is. I told you, I love the heat. And so I have to remember to turn down my air when I invite my friends and family over, because it's a little warm for the rest of the world. But for me, it doesn't take much to keep me cool.
Wow. I keep my house at 73, and I keep my bedroom at 70.
Oh no, I actually legitimately, once it starts going down 80, I wake up with the stuffy nose personally. Maybe a little too much information for everyone out there, but now you know.
We're wearing a hoodie to bed.
Absolutely. But you know what? I'm going a little off our nice list of questions, but you've mentioned this a couple of times, your maintenance programs, and I was on your site, of course, checking it out, and you have three different levels, right? How important are these maintenance plans? I mean, to me, it sounds like it's pretty important to have that, because especially for you do those checks, and it doesn't sound like anyone else really offers that opportunity in your industry. Am I reading that correctly?
Every company offers a maintenance plan. And again, I'm going to pull back and expose how this happens. I was at a home show, and some guy walks up and he said, "Hey, what are you giving away for free?" And I said, "Information, knowledge, awareness of who we are." And he starts laughing, and he goes, "Oh, that guy right down the way gave me 2 free checkups." And I laughed, and he's like, "What's so funny?" And I said, "He might show up for free, but he's not leaving for free." He's like, "What do you mean?" I go, "Oh, he's going to find a lot of problems. He's going to put the fear of God in you. Your system won't last. It's going to fail, pending failures. And he's going to scare you, because that's how this industry works, right? And then they're going to look at the age of your unit, and they're going to, let's say it's 8 years old. Hey, I'm going to give you a 4-year maintenance plan, and I'm going to do all this work. And then we'll come out every year to take care of your system. So as the consumer, you're like, okay, yeah, they're going to do all this work, and I get the maintenance for free. It's great. So year 1, I get Johnny Newbie. Year 2, I get another newbie. Year 3, I get another newbie. Year 4, they send out a closer, someone who is going to put the ultimate fear, and you have to, I'm going to buy a system. I'm going to buy a system. And that's how they operate with their maintenance plans. Oh, wow. Our plans aren't built around fear. They're built around making sure your system stays running. And I don't care if your system runs for 5 years, 10 years, 15, 20, 25, 30, it doesn't matter to me. What matters to me more is taking care of your system, making sure your home is comfortable for your family and friends, and earning your business by seeing that all of these years that we've done business together, you trust me, we're honest, we're transparent, and we care about you. Because every customer I go into that has a new system need, I always ask them and say, oh, is that drawer over there, is that the one that's full of cash for your new system? And they laugh, because no one has the money set aside to buy an air conditioning system. It's a big expense. It happens, and they're surprised by it. So why not take care of it?
Right.
Why not make sure it's supported the right way? Why not buy a plan that I'm not going to have any unexpected billing surprises when they show up? And oh, by the way, they want to make sure that this system runs as long as it possibly can, versus, well, you're at that 12-year average mark, you need a new system. And that's just not the way to do business. At least that's not the way I will do business.
Well, that is very refreshing to hear. I see in the comments, Lori was saying so true when you were talking about just putting the fear of God in you to actually get that new system. And Lori would know, she's a great realtor here in the Valley. So she deals with a lot of homes and a lot of home buyers. And so that's good to know and understand that's what you're providing. I'm all about maintenance. It's like health, right? I'd rather just maintain my health, keep myself healthy, keep going, making sure all the systems are working correctly. And then my chances of a massive failure later on in life is a lot less. Or because I'm getting those system checks, as we're talking about it, the chances of catching a potential catastrophic thing is a lot earlier and quicker, right? When it's not as painful.
That's exactly right. There are some companies, and again, exposing this industry, they'll say, hey, we'll give you a breakdown guarantee for the summer, right? So they show up, they go through your system, and they give you this laundry list of stuff. And the customer's like, but it was running fine. No, here's everything that you need to replace. And so then what happens is, if the system does break down, they show up and they go, oh, no, this is billable because back in March, I told you this part was bad and you didn't want to replace it. So now you're stuck and you're going to have to pay. It's just wrong. I mean,
Well, and that kind of leads going back into our questions where you say, the question, aren't all HVAC companies pretty much the same? And clearly they're not. But I think more interesting is, why is the pricing variation so different from one company to another? Like, where does that stem from?
Well, it starts from, you have to understand this industry is very incestual, right? So a company,
a fun statement.
a company has techs, and the tech looks at the boss and he's writing out all these tickets, and he's like, well, he's making a lot of money, so I'm going to go start my own business. So in order to start his own business, he lowers his price, because I need to stay in business. I need people to buy. So that's the low end of the spectrum, right? And then you've got the big behemoths, which I call the 800-pound gorillas, that are absolutely overpriced. Mm-hmm. And then there's those that are in the middle that make a good living. They know how to price their product. They know how to do the work and be fair about it, although they're not transparent like we are. But that spectrum, so there's 2,200 different residential contractors in the Valley. And I can almost assure you that there's 2,200 different price books on how they feel like they should be paid. And there's only one that's transparency, and that's you're looking at it.
Wow. Okay. And just a reminder, if you have any questions, please go ahead and put in the Ask a Question section in the middle of your screen towards the bottom. That way we don't miss any of the questions there.
You know, Jill, if I could give you an example, I had someone just 2 days ago, and they said, "Yeah, we got a new system from one of the big guys," and I won't mention their name, but they're big on, "Oh, we give you a free flashlight," and I think the reason they give you a flashlight is because they keep you in the dark on pricing, but that's neither here nor there. So they offered her the system for $16,000. And she was like, it seems kind of pricey. Okay, well, we'll take $4,000 off. So they ended up buying the system for $12,900. Then she sends me a note that says, I still feel like I paid too much. And I said, yes, you did, because the equipment that they installed, my cost was $3,500. And she was like, what? I said, yeah, so you're looking at maybe an $8,500 system at best out the door. So you still overpaid by $4,000. And that's where, that's what this industry doesn't want. They don't want you to know all of these details. They don't want you to see how much money they're making. Whereas our transparency model does just the opposite. We show you all of those things. We expose I mean, I would love to make $9,000 more than I should, but I don't think that's right.
Yeah.
Because just like I'm trying to get tile in my house remodeled, other people are buying air conditioning systems. They want to be treated fairly. They want to be treated openly and honestly. So
yeah. I mean,
so that's why they're all not the same.
Yeah. Well, and that actually goes into kind of our next topic is your name, your actual name, which I had to learn is pricemyac.com. That is the actual name of your company.
That is correct.
And that's purposeful, correct?
It's very purposeful because, and it's funny how we came about this name. I was having a beer with a friend of mine, and we're talking about how we can better utilize the internet and all these different things. And he said, he goes, I get really upset because when I go out on the internet and I want to look something up, I get all these things, free estimates. And his thing was, is it $50? Is it $500? Is it $5,000? I just would like to know the price, And he goes, I just want people to price he said a bad word. And I'm like, I go, well, we can't use that, but I like the name Price My AC. So we have Price My AC. Price My's trademark for us nationally, and no one else can use that name. We're right now we're doing Price My AC, but we're going to have Price My water heater, Price My garage door, Price My electric, Price My landscape, Price My all these different things. We're going to have a whole host of names, and when a customer wants to get a price, they can go there. I can find out what a system's going to cost. I can find out what a garage door is going to cost. I can find out what a water heater is going to cost, and not have to waste their time getting estimates.
Yeah, and that actually goes along, of course, with your overall price transparency model. And part of that is they don't just get one concept, right? They get like kind of good, better, best options, if I'm remembering correct.
When someone gets a estimate from us from a system, I give them 4 prices. Now, the industry says give them 3 and hit the customer up with that really big, expensive one. And then when the customer goes, oh, a lot of money. Okay, well, we've got this one. We got this one. So they give them 3 levels of pricing, right? My theory is let's start out with 4 levels. So what's called the baseline. And the baseline, whether you buy it from me, from anybody else, give or take $500, that's what you're looking at. Then we upgrade in efficiency all the way up to the ultimate, which is a 20 SEER variable speed compressor. It's ultimate technology, zoning. It's a really good system, right? And so when it comes to the customer, we show them all of these different prices, all the different equipment, labor, everything's the same. But what's more importantly is, would you rather someone try to talk you into a price, or would you say, okay, here's the baseline. Now let's talk about the next system, which is $1,200 more, or the next system, which is $2,500 more. And what ends up happening is, if I'm trying to talk to you about a $16,000 system, you're like, wow, that's a lot of money. But if I compare the incremental investment from the baseline to the $16,000 system, and then show you, hey, you're going to save this much more money annually on your utility bills. So after 4 years of the new system, you will have paid back that incremental investment, and you're better off. And people, they don't break it down that way for customers. And I think if you were to see this, you'd kind of go, why doesn't everybody else do this? And the answer is because they're fear-based and we're knowledge-based.
Yeah, well, and that makes a lot of sense, because I was thinking about, as you were talking about the incremental increases, same concept with brands. It's like, are all system brands the same? What's the difference? What are you looking at? And it looks like, you're starting to touch on that, but what else should people be considering?
Well, there are basically 7 manufacturers of air conditioners in the nation, but there's like 35 different brands, right? So take, for instance, Carrier. Carrier has like 5 or 6 brands. Train has like 3 or 4 brands. And I've been to these factories, and you can say a name is a name is a name, but when you're sitting there and you see a bunch of air conditioners come down the line, and they get put together and they get a Train label on them, a bunch of air conditioners come down the line, they get put together, American Standard or Carrier or Bryant, they're all made on the same line. There's just fundamental differences in terms of the packaging that make them different, but they're all the same. So when you pull all of this stuff off, 80% of the air conditioner, and I mean 80%, the compressors, the relays, the capacitors, the contactors, the wire, the aluminum, all of that stuff is made by the same wholesalers for every manufacturer. It's just the brand name, the packaging, and the color that makes the difference. And it's like, why would you pay more for something versus less? It's a fundamental thing that I struggle with. Cars are that way. You've got GMC, which is a premium brand, versus Chevy.
Right.
You pay more for a GMC than you do a Chevy. It's just that's the way it works. But when it comes to brand, you have to understand availability of spare parts, the reliability of the equipment. Sometimes you have installations that are constricted, so you might need a very special type of equipment to fit in there. So you're kind of stuck with this brand unless you do a major retrofit to the attic, right? So we sell Rheem, we sell American Standard, and we sell Bosch. Those are our 3 brands that we sell, and we sell a lot of them. But we chose those brands because, and I don't want to speak badly of a manufacturer, but one of the big names that advertises a lot, we've installed probably $4 million worth of their equipment, and we have a problem, and we go to get the warranty part, and they're like, yeah, we don't have that part. Well, when are you going to have it? It'll be in next week. So now, as the business owner, I'm stuck telling a customer who just paid me thousands of dollars for their new system that broke, that was supposed to be reliable, I got to wait a week for your part.
Right.
That doesn't go over well.
No.
So we chose the brands that have the most access to parts, the best warranty, and the best engineering design. That's how we decided.
Well, that makes sense. And we've got quite a few questions, so I'm going to start transitioning over here to some of the questions
Sure.
from our audience. First question is, okay, what's the deal with Freon? How long will it still be available? This is something new to me. Is there something going on in the world of Freon that I haven't heard about, which is very possible?
It's a secret world, yes. Freon is a generic term. It's like a refrigerant, right? Every system has refrigerant inside of it. There's different types of refrigerant. Freon is kind of an industry trade name for R22. R22 was banned. All production ceased. They started the ban in 2006, and as of this year, 2020, there is no more production of R22. The R22 that exists in the market, so let's say I come out to your house and you get a new system, which has a new, different refrigerant. I take your R22 out, I turn that in, it gets cleaned, reclaimed, and then repackaged. So all of the Freon that exists today can still be cleaned and remanufactured, I think until 2024. But it's really expensive. I mean, we're talking like $180 a pound expensive, which most systems hold 13 to 14 pounds. So you can see where if I have a leak and it's R22, it's time for a new system versus repairing.
Right.
So the Freon, it is available. We're seeing a lot of substitutes that come out that kind of look like, act like R22. They're not quite the same. They're a lower cost alternative, and by that I mean not $180 a pound, but more like $80 a pound, which is still expensive compared to R410A, which I charge $30 a pound for. Which R410A is the new stuff that you buy and get with new air conditioners. So there is a fear. A lot of companies are using the Freon scare to, it's got R22, you need to buy a new unit. If it's working, I don't have a leak, why not run it till it dies? That's my theory.
So kind of playing off of that question, how old of a house, I mean, where's that age cutoff from the old refrigerant to this new one?
2006.
So if a house has been built after 2006, it doesn't even have that concern?
Yeah, it should not have R22 in it. That is correct.
Got it.
Because
okay.
they did a major ban in 2006, and in fact, all of the manufacturers were caught by surprise because when they banned this, some of them said, well, we're just going to adopt and use the R410A. R410A, and this may not mean a lot to the consumers listening, but the operating pressures are twice that of R22. So if you, early on when they switched to R410A, we had a lot of coil leaks, a lot of problems with the refrigerant systems, because they took the same design. We can double the pressure, it's fine. And they've learned a lot. The manufacturers have learned a lot. And trust me, I've replaced a lot of coils under warranty because of the R410A when they were initially installed.
All right. Well, things I didn't even know was an issue that I just learned. All right, going on to the next question. All right, this was answered earlier, but we'll go ahead and answer it one more time. You know, if your air conditioning's out in the summer, how quickly can you come to your house? And I think you had said, especially depending on your maintenance plan, you could get there within an hour or two. But is there a general standard of when people come to your home if it's broken in summer?
We try to get there the same day. If you're a Platinum Club member, we try to get there within the hour.
Okay.
But if it's a new customer, we try to get there within the same day. Now, you have to understand that a lot of the people that are calling that have breakdowns, almost all of them have not had any kind of maintenance. So as the outside temperature rises, so does the work and damage that's caused to the air conditioner. So when you get the spring check or the fall check, you pretty much take a lot of these infant mortality failures that would fail during the summer, you catch them early and you remove them from the equation. So, we like to think that everybody should have a maintenance plan, but those that don't, we still want to get to them the same day.
Okay.
Right. That's our standard.
Oh, that's good to know. And so for someone like me, I live in a townhome community. Is there a slightly different set of processes, with how you're dealing with air conditioning, or is it still similar as if it's a single family home?
No, saying it's still a single family home. The difference is there might be a gate code. We might need to know your building number because we get a lot of times people go, yeah, I'm in unit 405. It's like, okay, there's 20 buildings here.
Yeah.
Well, it's building number 4. Okay, I got it. That makes a big difference. So, but yes, I mean, the air conditioning system, fundamentally, whether it's a home or a condominium or even what we call light commercial, like a little strip mall that you go into versus the Chandler Fashion Square.
Right.
All of the systems are basically the same. So it doesn't matter, just the size is different. Yours is probably a 2-ton versus my home, which is a 5-ton. Some people might have 2-3 tons on their home. We go to homes that, I've done homes that have as much as 60 tons of air conditioning. So 35,000 square feet is a big point.
Okay. Well, there is a longer question, so I'm going to go to this first really quick. How do you find out the age of your system?
Well, first of all, if it's a new home, that's pretty easy. But you have to look at there's a tag on the outside of the unit, and they're in the serial number, embedded within the serial number is a date code. So it's typically either month, year, or year, month, and then there's a serial number. So that's like for Goodman, like an 0511 would be, okay, it was made in 2005 in the 11th month, and then it also has a week stamp, and then it has a serial number. So if you could, anybody can go onto the internet and look at their unit and say, Goodman, or type in the serial number, and it'll tell them the age.
Oh, well.
So it's, and if you can't read the tag, chances are it's old.
Fair enough. Now I'm just going to read this question verbatim. It says, the air handler in the attic needs evaluation. This seems to be a mixed brand unit with Lennox and Norden. The coils at the exterior of the home require R22 refrigerant, and the air handler in the attic is stated to require R410A refrigerant. This is important for proper function. I've run into this issue more than once. What is your take on this, if this is enough info to respond?
Yes. So what you're talking about is you had a failure probably after 2006. The condenser was still good, which is the outside part, so they put in a new air handler. Just because the air handler says it's rated for R410A doesn't mean that you can't run R22. There is a key piece for the air handler. It's called a metering device, right? So this device regulates the flow of refrigerant through the indoor coil. That device can be changed to work for R22 or R410A. So what we saw initially in the market after 2006 is people were buying the R410A air handlers and then changing out the metering devices to work with the outside unit. It does happen. Running an R410A device that has not been altered or modified to work with R22, you would know that right away because it wouldn't cool properly. R410A has less flow per minute of Freon than R22. So what would happen is it would almost act as though the system was not charged properly and it couldn't remove it. So.
Okay. Well, Lori, my answer to that would be have Lamont, John and his team come out. That would be my simple answer to that. All right, we have a few more minutes. Thank you guys so much for these great questions. Again, I am learning so much. It's part of the reason why we do these droplets of wisdom. It's our opportunity to just provide really quick moments of here are things you should know about your life. And so it's been fun to learn about the HVAC world, which, may sound crazy, but it really has been.
Kind of like evil thing. necessary evil in the desert.
Okay, a couple more just random questions, and then I'm going to end with my favorite question. Let's talk really quickly about programmable thermostats. Are they worth it?
Actually, a side story on that. The company that invented the programmable thermostat was the utility company. Because if you think about it, in the old world, we'd all get dressed, we'd all go to work, and why do you want to cool a house when you're not home, right? So the utility company has so much power to put out on the grid. So, hey, if we have these homeowners set back their thermostat, then that power is now available for the grid for commercial customers, right? So that's kind of how the setback thermostat came to be. I don't believe in them because simply when you set back your thermostat and you come home and your house is 85, well, for you that would be comfortable, but for me that would be miserable. Everything in your house is 85. Your furniture, your floors, your walls. So now when you try to cool that system down, it's working extra hard to remove all that heat that's been added to the house. I don't recommend setting your thermostat more than 2 degrees. So if you normally keep your house at 78, take it to 80 if you want to save a few bucks. But don't take it any more than that, because the cost of recovering the home to the proper temperature is, you're not really, you may think you're saving money, but you're not saving money. So I don't believe in programmable thermostats. And taking that to the next step, almost all of the new systems today are multi-stage or variable compressors. So what that means is your unit doesn't run at full capacity, it runs at part capacity, and it adjusts the compressor based on the temperature inside the home. So when we install new systems for customers that are staged or variable speed, we disable the programming feature and tell them just set the house where you want, let it run, and be comfortable. And of course, their initial thought is, this is going to cost me a fortune. And then they get their bill and they go, I saved like 40%. That's amazing. So I don't believe in programmable thermostats. And that's the why.
And that's the why. Well, I mean, your why makes sense. Again, for someone like me, I'm trying to save money, and I played around with that. And finally I realized it's like my poor AC is having a nervous breakdown because I'm like, up, down. And finally I just said it there with the agreement of my roommate. She's very gracious. But here's where we're at. And we just left it that way because, summer has been a little bit more extended this year. Yes. So we just picked a level and left it.
It was a brutal summer this year, tell me.
Yeah, it was absolutely brutal. Okay, one more. Just wanted to throw this out to the audience because we are coming to the end of our time and want to be very cognizant of that. So if there are any other last minute questions, please feel free to put them in the Ask a Question section. We just thank you so much for the great questions and the fun time talking with John here. A couple more last random questions. How important is maintenance of my furnace, since we barely use them here in Arizona? And then kind of a bump to that question is, do you all look at hot water systems?
We do look at hot water systems, and just to answer that simply, one of the things that we install most commonly now is a heat pump hot water system. So I have one in my house, and it kind of, I saw you kind of go, and that's when we present this to customers, that's exactly what they do. So when you compress Freon, it generates heat. And so a heat pump system actually uses that heat, and it has an external coil around the water tank to heat the water. And the nice part about that is in my garage, it's throwing out the cold air. So my garage this summer rarely got above 90 because it's rejecting the cold air into the garage, which I'll take it. I'll give you an example of how those work. And they're pricey, but they're great. My old hot water heater, when I put my amp meter on it and checked the amp draw, it was 24 amps, right? To generate the hot water. And that's 24 amps on each leg. So when I put in the heat pump, I checked it and it was 1.35 amps, which is nothing.
Right.
So now I have more hot water and less utility bills. And the way this works, it's counterintuitive. So you shower in the morning and then you leave. Well, why not take advantage of that time frame instead of I shower and I want a full tank of hot water within 20 minutes, right? Why? It's going to sit there all day. With a heat pump water heater, it goes all day long and heats it slowly. And when you come home, you have a bunch of hot water again, but you've saved a ton of money and you have a cool garage.
Fantastic. So let's go back to the furnaces.
Furnaces, most people don't realize that in Arizona, that we do have gas furnaces, which run probably for 5 minutes in the morning and then shut off, right? But that furnace has a flame sensor, it's natural gas. There's a lot of different safeties associated with that furnace that should be checked. The other problem in Arizona is because the furnace doesn't stay on that long, that short cycling can fatigue the heat exchanger inside the furnace, whereas in Chicago, a furnace would start and might run for 20, 25 minutes, right? Here we have a very short run time. So it's important to know that, and it's important to look at that. Now, heat pumps in the wintertime, all that hot air that's being blown out in the summertime, the heat of compression is used to come to the inside coil, and you reject the heat inside the house. So when you say, I have an air conditioner and a heat pump, I don't need it for heating. Well, if it doesn't cool very good, it's not going to heat very good. So that's why the damage that is caused from running in the summer with a heat pump, if it's not looked at in the fall, it will certainly manifest itself as a problem during the heating season. And it's so odd because around here, if you're cold, just wait till 11 o'clock and it'll be warm. But people, they literally freak out more about the cold air in their house versus it being hot in the summer. It's like, my house is 65 degrees. Put on a sweater, we'll be there.
That is actually quite funny. I'm just like, okay, I'll just layer up. It'll get warmed up. And I agree with Lori. I saw in the comments she's never heard of a heat pump. I was like, well, you all saw my face reaction. Clearly, I hadn't either. But a lot of great information. I didn't get to my favorite question, which was the future. Where are you going in the future? You know, I'm going to throw it out there. You know, tell me a little bit, peel back the layers about where you're going in the future.
Well, the future would be, imagine if you could go to your phone and pick someone to show up at your house when it was convenient for you based on their locality around you. So in this industry, we waste 20 to 30% of our time driving from call to call to call. So what if there's a way to get rid of that waste and then translate into customer savings as well as expeditious service to the customer around their time frame versus we could be there Tuesday at 4. So that's the future of this industry, and we're building it right now, and it's coming very soon.
I am excited about that future because that is quite fantastic. And honestly, in most industries, that's where most industries are going towards consumers. If you want to continue to play this game or being in any industry, is really being able to have that flexibility for your clients and for your consumers. John, thank you so much for your time. Learned a lot. Everyone, again, this is John Lamont from PriceMyAC.com. I will eventually be sending out a follow-up email. I know for anyone who joined our last Droplets of Wisdom, I still owe you a follow-up. But thank you so much for joining all of us. We're excited. Loved the information. We'll have the replay available for you to be able to watch. Thank you for joining us again. John, and for everyone that was here, thank you for being part of the broadcast. It was a fantastic time, and I hope you have a great day. And we will see you on our next Droplets of Wisdom. Bye, everyone.
Awesome. Thank you. Bye-bye.